Secondhand toy dealer here, and this is my toy collection, and it is set up to look like it is a toy store. My wife and I purchased this home a little over a year ago, and I have spent a little over 6 months setting this room up. The previous home that we lived in had a small room in the basement that I used as a workshop, and I tinkered around with some projects. So I built the workbench and I hung the pegboard, and it evolved from exclusively a workshop kind of area into a toy collection. But my wife and I sold that home to find a house in a quieter neighborhood. And when we purchased this home, I had this spare bedroom kind of set aside for this project. So this room is kind of a small spare bedroom. It is 11 feet by 11 feet, and it doesn't have really high ceilings. The ceilings are only 7 foot 3 inches. Now this room had a sliding glass patio door that went out into a recess into the yard with a retaining wall. But the retaining wall was broken and caving in. The glass door, the seals were broken, so they were kind of foggy. And between the cost of replacing the glass door and the cost of taking down the retaining wall and rebuilding all of that, the contractor that I spoke to told me that it would probably be cheaper to just delete that space. And truthfully, I kind of wanted the extra wall space for my collectibles. So the demolition began. We started taking the drywall down off of the walls, and that went very easily. I wanted to remove the drywall so I could run electric where I wanted electric and hang pegboard on the walls. Like I said, the walls came down pretty easily, but the ceiling was a different story altogether. The ceiling, to my surprise, had a bunch of that cable heating in the ceiling, so that was a lot more difficult to take down. Fortunately, the cable heating was disconnected, and it looked like it had been disconnected for quite some time. We didn't know that it was there, and I'm glad that I discovered that the ceilings in this house have cable heating by working on the smallest room in the house, because it would have been a pretty frustrating experience digging into the ceiling of a room like my living room, which is significantly more surface area, and trying to either patch together something or rip the whole ceiling down like I did in this room. So I'm glad I discovered the cable heating was in this house while working on a small room like this one. And then, once I got it down, I realized why the ceilings were so low. This was kind of a hub for the AC and heating. There was a trunk that came through the ceiling and then dispersed throughout the upstairs, so I couldn't adjust the height of the ceiling. Once I got the demolition completed on the inside of the room, I removed the glass door. While the glass door was removed, I took that opportunity to get my glass display case brought into the room before I framed in that now void section where the glass door was. I just barely got it weathered in for the night before it got dark. And then I unloaded all of the brick that I purchased for the masonry work. I was lucky to find a brickyard that had some bricks that were very similar to the brick color that I already had on my house. It wasn't an exact match, but boy was it close. And the guy at the brickyard said that my house being 40 plus years old, he said it was pretty fortunate that I was able to find bricks that matched it so well. Once I got all the masonry work done, I removed all of the concrete slab and the retaining wall. Once we got all of the concrete and the cinder blocks removed, We had a foundation sealing company come in and seal up the work that I did that was going to be underground. And then we had fill dirt brought in, and we began filling in this void in our yard. I had been telling my wife I need to get a move on this, and we need to get the outdoor part of this project done before the weather turns and winter sets in. And no sooner as I got done filling in that dirt, snow started to fly. Now, I expected that this dirt was going to settle and I would have to put more in the springtime, but for now, I was at a point where I could leave the outside and begin working on the inside again. So I ran my electric where I wanted it and hung my drywall. The room had a ceiling fan, and because the ceiling was so low, I really didn't like the fan hanging down, making the ceiling feel even lower. And that ceiling fan light really did not provide much lighting for this room, even though it was kind of a small room. So I put in some LED can lights, and I'm really pleased with the lighting that it provides. I insulated the new section of wall, and I insulated the wall on the inside for better sound absorption. Now you'll notice that I did include a window in the new section of wall. I was kind of thinking ahead to the future, figuring that this might not be a toy collectible room forever and ever. So someday when I take the pegboard down and finish hanging drywall in this room and make it back into a spare bedroom, there would still be a window letting natural light in. But I wanted to use all of that wall space, so the plan was to go ahead and hang pegboard over it so that I could use all of that space to display things. And then I mudded the drywall. And the mudding of the drywall was probably the least favorite portion of this project. Once I finished the mudding, I sprayed knockdown. Once I got the drywall knockdown all complete, I started hanging pegboard. Once I got my pegboard hung, I began painting. Once the paint had started to dry, I trimmed the room out, and I felt like it was really starting to take shape and look really nice. I then went out to the garage where all of my collectibles were boxed up and stored, and started the epic Catch-22 game of setting collectibles onto the pegboard. I have found that hanging things in columns, in vertical rows that are similar to each other width-wise, makes it a lot easier. But even after getting stuff hung on all of the pegboards, I would spend the next 3 or 4 months taking things down, rearranging them, adding to it, and making lots of changes. So this is where we left the yard in the late fall, and this is how much dirt settled over the winter. There was about 10-12 inches that it had sunk down. So we brought in some topsoil, leveled it off, and put in some grass seed. This is what it used to look like, and this is what it looks like now. I think it's a pretty good improvement. Coming back inside, I have a bifold door for a closet. It's not a closet that I intend on getting in much. We use it for some storage. But I'd like to put a sign up, making it just a little more a part of the toy store. So I got some letters. I painted them the color Dreamsicle Orange, put them on some plywood, and then hung them over top of the bifold door. I can still pull the sign down and get into the bifold door anytime I need to. It's not that big of a deal, but I think that it really dresses this space up very well. Some of the things that I added to make it look more like a toy store: I have a gumball machine complete with acorn capsules and prizes. I have a cash register that actually works, and I picked that up from a local comic book store that was upgrading. I have this glass display case that I purchased from a small business about an hour north of me, that they were upgrading some of the pieces in their store and they didn't need this, so I went and purchased that. So these are the before and after pictures. I am really happy with the way all of this has turned out. I'm sure that it's going to evolve from here. Anytime I buy something new, I'm going to have to rearrange the pegboard to find space for it. I don't really store anything. If it's not out on display, then I try and sell it. And that is my toy store. In the next video, I will show you the stuff that I had that was extra beyond what I could fit into this room. When my wife and I sold our previous house, we spent almost 2 years looking for a house to buy. Couldn't find something that fit the bill. When we found this house, everything worked out, and I created this space, but I ended up having at least 33 to 40% more content than I could actually display in this room. So in the next video, I'll show you the stuff that I had that was left over, that is the sell pile, and how I am going to try and move some of that unneeded inventory. Just to let you know, I am closing in on 1,000 subscribers. I'm at 998 subscribers. So maybe one of you watching this video right now could be the 1,000th subscriber. How exciting would that be? Thanks for checking out my videos. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.